Hi everyone, and welcome to the first of Boma's Online Marketing Made Easy webinar series. It's great to have you all on board. Thanks for joining us in your lunchtime or early afternoon. Do let us know where you're dialing in from in the chat box if you can. Also, maybe if you're doing any marketing in your business or practice at present. Today, I'm joined by my co-host and colleague, Ian Christie, who's also the CEO of Boma, which is great. And in a previous life, Ian was the CEO of the advertising agency Saatchi & Saatchi in New Zealand, and also lived in the UK where he held various global marketing leadership positions. So great to have you with us, Ian.
Thank you. Great to be here too. Can't wait to get into it.
Fantastic. So my name is Charles Clark, and I look after the marketing side of things here at Boma. I also have a background in marketing and advertising, so hopefully between Ian and I, we can shed some light on marketing and why it's so critical to your business, help get you underway if you're not doing anything, or help improve your game if you are already doing some. So we know you're really busy, which is why we want to keep this session moving and just limit it to about 20 minutes. So we'll do our best to answer any questions as they come up, but apologies if we don't get to you. Obviously, we've just got a short amount of time. So let's dive into the presentation. Hand over to you, Ian.
Yeah, sure. So basically just really setting the context for what we're going to talk about today. And essentially, these are themes that you're probably all fairly aware of, but I think it's really good just to reassert them in light of what we're going to talk about. And of course, what we're going to do today is cover the sort of overview of what we will be covering over the next 7 weeks. So essentially, you're going to get a overview, and these are the things that will make a lot of this seem the reason why we're actually doing this. And one of the good things is about this is that it's a world of opportunity, and clearly in your sector that you know that things are changing, a lot of people are moving to the cloud. So in accountancy, particularly, things are, and bookkeeping, things are going that way, but also in marketing, things are going like that as well. And so if you've been able to be good enough to master some of the applications in the cloud from accounting or bookkeeping, then something like Boma is going to be pretty straightforward. But also, it's really more about the principles that we're going to talk to you about rather than specifically about Boma per se. So firstly, it's a world of opportunity. That's the first thing that we want to get across. And that's followed by the fact that also the clients are changing as well. So we know that your clients are also facing change in their industry or in their particular workplace, and they are looking for solutions as well to make themselves more competitive, more compelling, and also being able to reduce costs or be more efficient. And so a lot of them know that, and they want to be on that journey as well as you are. So essentially, one of the keys, I think, that from a growth point of view is becoming an advisor is a really, really big opportunity. So being able to actually go from the more sort of mechanical side of bookkeeping and accounting and into actually trying to advise your customers on aspects of their business and ways that they can be more efficient and more competitive, that will lead to the growth of your practice and ultimately the growth of their business. And so one of those things is about being able to market properly. And by this, it means that you need to understand some of those principles, but the principles that we're doing are essentially around constructing a robust marketing platform. And so we're going to cover those principles for you today, and you're going to see the component parts that go into a marketing platform. And actually, one of the things I think that you'll really see when we go through it is it's not hugely complicated. It's really a lot of the terms, and we won't be using any buzzwords or anything like that, but a lot of the sort of the way that the marketing is constructed, you'll actually see is pretty straightforward. And so what we're going to do is actually show you the construct of how that marketing can be put together. And the way that we do that is in very traditional marketing terms, what's called a temple. And essentially the temple is essentially around building a strong foundation for all of your marketing messages. And so if you start at the foundation of the temple, the first thing you can look at is your logo. And one of the things that we're going to be covering in this whole webinar series is essentially going from a business having a logo to having a brand. And there is a huge difference between the two, and often they are confused. People believe that if they have a logo, they have a brand. And that's almost true, but in marketing terms, it's not actually going to get you where you need to be. So one of the outputs of our 7-stage journey is going to be for you to be able to see how you go from logo to brand. And what essentially we mean by a brand is that fundamentally you're known for something. Just like when you say Coca-Cola, it's known for refreshment. If you think of Ford motor cars, you think of reliability. And so there's a whole lot of examples that I know that you have in your daily life where it's more than just a logo. That logo actually means something. And that's the journey that we want to take you on over the next 7 weeks. So let's look at some of the component parts to that. I guess the next thing that you need to really do, particularly in the age of the internet, is to be optimized for search, for Google. And one of the things that we're going to talk to you about is how to do that, clear up some of the sort of mysteries behind it, but also show you some of the simple things that you can do to make you more easily found on the web by people who could be looking for your services, but also for people who even just want to contact you and want to do it in another way through your website. So the importance of that. The next one is building a website. Now, building a website is seen as quite a large undertaking for lots of businesses. And actually in the past, that's largely been true. Building websites has been pretty difficult. It takes a lot of time, and sometimes the payoff is disproportionate to the input. You find that you pay quite a bit of money for a designer, a copywriter, a web builder, a coder, and then you have to get it hosted, and then you actually have to get people to go and see it. And so what we're going to do in our segment is show you actually how easy it is to get a website. And we've got some really exciting things we can talk to you about that. So that's, I guess, in a sort of an order of sequence. Once you've created your look and feel, that's your logo at this stage, you've actually started to understand how you're going to be found on the web. Then we'll show you how to put together a website. The next piece, which is actually really the foundation of creating a brand, is content. Now, by content, that can be anything from a YouTube video right through to an academic paper and everything in between. But from a marketing perspective, we believe that creating effective content for your customers is a very easy and scalable way to get your point of view across about how you see the world and the type of customers that you would like to attract, and or actually even just talk to the customers you already have without having to actually ring them all up or call a meeting or have a function or something like that. This is what we call a very scalable way of getting your point or your stories across to the people that you want to see them. The next three are essentially in the bucket of social media. And you may or may not be a social media user at the moment, but one of the things we will do is tell you actually how straightforward it is to use social media effectively to reach your customers and to also start to get a dialogue with them, and use social media, which is a free medium, to attract people to your brand and to get them to engage and participate in conversations with you that you normally couldn't have had. So those are the sort of parts to it. The next one we're going to cover is basically your target audience. Now, this may seem very basic. Who are the people that you see as your target? And you can be as wide or as narrow as you like here, but from my experience, having a narrower bunch of people that you want to talk to is actually one of the surefire ways of creating a successful brand and therefore a successful business. And then so by doing this, you have to ask yourself a few very basic questions. And sometimes it's the most basic questions that are the hardest to answer. But this is something that maybe you can think about now. And as we go through the series, you can start to build upon these and create strategies around them. But essentially, who are your customers, or who are the people you want to talk to? They may actually be two different groups. You might be looking to actually expand your customer base, and therefore you might want to be going into another sector or another industry, or you might want to actually just talk to the people that you already know, but do it in a scalable and efficient way. How many of them? And that's, again, another very fundamental question that is easily overlooked. You may have a handful of customers, may have many hundreds of customers, but essentially that does make a difference when you're trying to create a marketing strategy, because the amount of people you want to talk to is going to be proportionate to not only how much money you might potentially want to spend, but also as to how many, what sort of message you're going to give to these people. Because the messages you need to give need to resonate. And essentially that to resonate is around what interests these people. And essentially there are people who may be of a certain profession, but also they are still have a normal life like everybody else. And so you've got to agree or wonder to yourself whether you want to address these people in their business situation or potentially address them in a leisure type situation. Both strategies are okay. Neither is wrong nor right, but they are different. Also, the other thing that you need to think about is, where do these people consume media? Well, clearly we can't put ads on television because we say that our audience only watch TV. They will spend time on the internet. They will be searching for things. They will be reading various things on the internet. And so the more you know about those people, the more you know about the habits of what they do, then it makes it much easier for you to plan where you're going to put your messages as far as media is concerned. So an example could be, at one end of the spectrum, I'm going to buy a very expensive ad on television. And the other end of the spectrum could be, I'm going to put a free post up on LinkedIn. So those are incredibly diverse as far as a cost base is concerned, but essentially you may find that you've got more of your customers sitting on LinkedIn than you have watching television. And then the last thing is, what do you actually want them to do as a result of seeing your messages? Do you want them to actually take an action right there and then? Do you want them to basically consume some media or consume a piece of content that you've given them? So it's really interesting to actually ask yourself, what do I want these people to do? Now, it's going to be very difficult for you to take them from one message to a sale in one go. That's just not going to usually happen. So you've got to assume the fact that you're going to have to lead people on a journey. And the journey can be one of exchange, the reciprocity of information. I'm giving you something to read or to watch that you will find interesting. And over time, if I give you enough of these, you will then think of me and my company differently. And therefore, when I ask you whether you would like to become a customer or whether you would like to take up a opportunity or a deal of some sort, they will be more predisposed to doing that than if you just said, "Hi, I'm X brand, buy me now," which clearly won't work. So those are the foundations. The other ones, if we continue with the temple analogy, are pillars. And the pillars essentially are sort of things that are really the foundation of your content strategy. And what these are is essentially what are, in this case, the 5 things that I would like my customers to know about my business or my practice. And in this case, I've just put these down, but they could be getting onto the cloud, the benefits of using Xero, 5 tips for better cash flow, 5 tips to getting paid faster, and also something around the testimonials of what my clients are saying. So essentially, if you think of each of these, and they don't have to be these 5, they can be any 5 that you want, they can be 10, they can be 2, it's really up to you. But fundamentally, in order to take your prospective customers or your current customers down a pathway to understanding you as a brand, you need to tell them something that they either didn't know before or they sort of knew but needed a bit more information. And you're the person that's actually, because you know who they are and what interests them and where they consume media, you actually are providing these people with stories. And these sorts of stories are things that we'll show you further on through the series, how you can easily create these stories, how you can make them relevant and how you can make them compelling, and also how people who consume them will also react after reading them. So you might want to think about that. And then the last thing is essentially, and what I was saying at the start, is that your brand then starts to become, or your logo becomes more than just a logo. It actually starts to become a brand. And one of the things then that is really underpinning all of this is that talks about what my brand stands for and why you should be a customer. So we've gone from saying my logo is a word with a little symbol behind it. And now we've gone from there, as we've followed this through, we end up being with a something that means something to a certain group of people, has informed them on what they need to be informed on in the place that they are most used to consuming that message, and you've asked them to do something as a result. So essentially, that's the process of marketing as an overview, and that's what we're going to be taking you through in the rest of the series.
That's brilliant, Ian. Thank you. So I hope that's been helpful for everyone, just to understand, or start to understand why marketing is such a critical part of your business, whatever your business happens to be. And given how fast the business climate is changing, you really can't ignore it. And also some of the new technologies such as social media that Ian mentioned. So everything that we've just talked about today, the branding, the websites, the search and so on, we're actually diving into those and we're giving them each a session over the next 7 weeks. So I've just got here on this slide exactly what we'll be covering. So I know that a lot of you have registered for multiple ones, but looking at this and hearing what you've heard Ian talk about today, if there's anything, any topic here that you think actually I'd like to learn more about that, please go back onto the webinar registration link that we sent you. I've just got it up here on the slide, and you can join any new ones that you'd like to. Also, if you've got any colleagues or friends that you think would benefit from joining us, please do forward this on to them. Obviously, we'll always be recording these webinars and sending them out. So if you're not able, if they're not able to watch these live, don't worry, we'll be recording them and sending to you soon after each session. So that's it from us for this week. Thanks again, Ian, and we'll look forward to seeing you all on the next session. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.